I never expected my multi-million-dollar beach property empire to be the family secret I guarded most closely. But the look on my sister's face, watching her smug confidence unravel into stunned silence, was worth every carefully orchestrated lie. Before I dive into how the mask came off in the most gratifying way imaginable, drop a comment if you've ever been underestimated by your own family. And if you know the thrill of proving people wrong, like and subscribe, because this revenge, it's pure gold with a saltwater breeze. My name is Victoria Parker. I'm 32, and for the past decade, I've lived two lives. To my family, I'm the wayward youngest child, the one who never quite figured things out. Behind the curtain, I'm the founder of Parker Coast Properties, one of the fastest-growing luxury real estate empires in Southern California. Growing up in suburban Michigan, I always felt like the misplaced puzzle piece in our picture-perfect family of four. My parents, James and Margaret, revolved their lives around my sister Diana's endless accomplishments. She was the golden child, straight A's, student body president, full ride to Stanford. And me? I was the background noise. Why can't you be more like Diana? That phrase played on a loop throughout my childhood. While she polished trophies and collected scholarships, I was immersed in real estate listings, studying market trends and flipping through property investment guides. My father, a high school econ teacher, thought I was chasing fantasies. Real estate is for people with money, Victoria, he'd say, eyes glued to Diana's latest accolade. Pick something realistic. Even my mother, though kinder, shared the same sentiment. Sweetheart, maybe you should look into teaching, like your dad. It's secure. Only one person believed in me, Grandma Elizabeth. During those magical summers at her beach cottage in California, she'd sit with me for hours going over listings, talking market cycles, and feeding the spark no one else saw. You've got vision, Victoria, she'd tell me, pride in her eyes. Don't ever let them tell you otherwise. Those moments became my secret education. While the rest of the family thought I was just soaking up sun, I was quietly building the blueprint for an empire. At 18, my plan was already set. While Diana jetted off to Stanford, I enrolled in a local college and majored in business administration with a real estate focus. My family saw it as settling. I saw it as setting the stage. At least she's doing something, I heard my mother whisper once, though she could have aimed higher, like Diana. What they didn't know was that I was already working part-time at a real estate agency, stashing away every commission into a growing investment fund. When Grandma Elizabeth passed away during my sophomore year, she left me her beach cottage and, more importantly, her expansive network of real estate professionals. My parents assumed the property was a burden. You should sell it, my father advised. Use the money for something practical. Instead, I used the cottage as leverage. I bought a rundown beachfront property, flipped it, and tripled my investment. That single transaction lit the fuse for what would become Parker Coast Properties, though on paper, the ownership traced back to a holding company. Over the next decade, I quietly acquired prime coastal properties, transforming them into sought-after vacation estates. To my family, I was still the underachiever with a real estate license. In reality, I was managing a multi-million-dollar portfolio and leading a team from my sleek downtown office. Meanwhile, Diana played her part in the family narrative. Stanford grad, married to Michael Thompson, a high-powered lawyer, 2 kids, pristine home, Christmas cards that oozed humblebrag. We're so blessed, she wrote one year, just hoping Victoria finds her path someday. I kept my distance, visiting occasionally in my modest car, staying humble, staying silent. It wasn't worth the drama. But then Diana got greedy. It started with a Tuesday morning phone call as I reviewed a $12 million acquisition. Vicky, she chirped, I've been thinking about Grandma's beach cottage. My stomach tightened. That tone, it was the same one she'd used when convincing our parents to redirect my college fund to her. What about it? I asked, casually signing the purchase agreement. Well, Michael and I want to start taking the kids to the beach more often. That cottage would be perfect. I know it's probably hard for you to afford the upkeep, so we'd be willing to buy it. We'll let you visit too. My fingers tightened around my pen. Still, I played along. It's not for sale, Diana. Don't be stubborn, Vicky. We know things are tough for you. This could be your chance to get back on track. We'd offer a fair price. Then came the kicker. We're planning a trip next month. You should join. I booked a gorgeous rental right near the cottage. I knew exactly what rental she meant. Which property? I asked. The Azure Cove Villa. 6 bedrooms, private beach, an infinity pool. It's obviously way beyond your budget, but we'd love for you to stay with us. What Diana didn't know, the Azure Cove Villa wasn't just one of my properties, it was my personal favorite. A $15 million masterpiece I'd designed down to the last tile. Sounds perfect, I said, a slow smile spreading across my face. Count me in. Great, Mom and Dad are coming too, just like old times. As I hung up, I glanced around my office, my name etched on awards, framed press coverage, project blueprints pinned on the wall. For 10 years, I'd stayed quiet, but that was about to change. Are you sure you want to go through with this? Sarah, my property manager, asked as we finalized the villa's setup. I nodded. It's time they see who I really am, I replied calmly, thinking of Diana's smug tone from our last call. They need to see who I really am. The day of the family vacation arrived bathed in golden sunlight, almost too perfect. Like the calm before a storm, I pulled up to Azure Cove Villa in my inconspicuous sedan, arriving just moments after my family's gleaming SUV. Diana's kids were already sprinting around the property, while my parents stood admiring the villa's facade like tourists in a brochure. Victoria, my mother called, disappointment already dripping from her voice. Couldn't you have worn something more fitting for the beach? I glanced down at my elegant sundress, simple in design, but custom-tailored and worth more than their SUV's monthly payments. I bit back a smile. Leave her alone, Diana said, ever the actress. Not everyone can afford a beach-appropriate wardrobe. For the next hour, I endured their condescension, Diana parading around the villa as if she owned it, my parents marveling at the features, and Michael dropping not-so-subtle hints about his latest work bonus. The rental agent's coming soon, Diana announced on the terrace. Though Victoria, maybe hang back? We wouldn't want them thinking we've exceeded the guest limit. That was my signal. I pulled out my phone and sent a text to Sarah. We're ready. A few minutes later, the doorbell rang. Diana practically ran to answer it, ready to play the role of upscale client. I heard Sarah's calm, polished voice from the entryway. Good afternoon. I'm here to welcome the guests of Azure Cove Villa. Yes, that's us, Diana replied proudly. We're so excited to be here. Wonderful, Sarah responded, stepping onto the terrace with a professional smile. I just need to confirm a few details with the owner. Diana blinked. Oh, is the owner coming by? Sarah's eyes met mine, and her smile widened. The owner is already here. The air on the terrace turned thick with silence. Sarah turned to me, holding a sleek portfolio. Miss Parker, everything has been prepared to your exact specifications. Would you like to lead the tour? Diana's mask of composure cracked. There must be some mistake. My sister Victoria? She's just visiting. I stepped forward smoothly. Actually, I think it's time I told the truth. I gestured for Sarah to bring the materials from the car. Confused, my parents stared at me, Mom clutching her designer handbag like it was a life preserver, Dad blinking behind his glasses. What's going on, Victoria? Michael asked, eyes narrowing with lawyerly suspicion. I walked to the villa's glass wall overlooking the Pacific, my favorite view, and turned to face them. You know, when you called about Grandma's cottage, Diana, something clicked. I realized I've spent years hiding in plain sight. Sarah returned and placed the Parker Coast Properties portfolio on the coffee table. My family stared at the embossed gold logo like it might bite them. 10 years ago, I started my own company. Today, Parker Coast Properties owns 37 luxury beachfront estates, including this one. I gestured around the villa. Total market value, over $400 million. The only sound was the soft crashing of waves. Diana went pale. That's ridiculous, she scoffed. You're a real estate agent. I'm the founder and CEO, I corrected, flipping open the portfolio to reveal financial statements, renovation records, acquisition contracts. Every inch of this villa, from the imported marble to the infinity pool you admired, I chose it. Dad moved forward cautiously, economic curiosity overtaking disbelief. "Show me," he said. So I did. For the next 30 minutes, I walked them through everything: my company's rise, its profits, the strategy. I could see their perception shifting with every page. Mom's voice trembled. "But, where did you get the money?" I smiled. "Remember the beach cottage Diana said I couldn't maintain? I used it as collateral for my first investment." I clicked the remote, and a screen descended. Photos flashed of the cottage's transformation into a high-end rental property. That cottage now brings in $40,000 a month during peak season. It was just the beginning. Michael, now flipping through profit breakdowns, whistled. "These numbers are solid. You've built something impressive." Mom sank into the couch. "Why didn't you ever tell us?" "Because you never asked. You assumed, judged, compared." I looked at Diana. "You offered help, but always from a place of superiority, never support." Sarah stepped in gently. "Miss Parker, would you like me to begin the portfolio presentation?" "Yes," I said, eyes never leaving my family. "Let's show them everything." The screen lit up with images of estates, private clubs, ocean view developments, each one a testament to what I'd built. When the image of my penthouse flashed, Mom gasped. "But you live in that tiny apartment." "A cover," I replied. "My real residence is here." Another photo appeared, my Newport Beach penthouse. "And my real cars?" I gave Sarah a nod. She tapped the screen, revealing a high-end garage filled with vintage and luxury vehicles. Michael leaned in, visibly impressed. The shock in the air had settled into awe. And then, the final blow. "You said this villa was listed for rent," I said to Diana. "It wasn't. None of my properties are. I listed this one for exactly 3 hours, just long enough for you to find it." Diana stood frozen. "You set us up?" "I gave you a stage," I said. "You walked right onto it." The sun dipped lower, casting golden light across the terrace. Sarah quietly left, giving us space. "So, what now?" Dad asked softly. I returned with a bottle of vintage champagne and elegant flutes. "Now," I said, popping the cork, "we toast to the truth." I poured, they accepted, and as the bubbles rose, so did the realization. The illusion had shattered, but in its place stood a stronger reality, one built on vision, resilience, and grit. "Mine. To new beginnings," I said. Their glasses met mine hesitantly, but it was enough. The next morning, the house was quiet when I rose early and stepped onto the terrace. The ocean greeted me like an old friend. A moment later, Dad appeared, pouring himself coffee. "I reviewed your margins again," he said with a sigh. "You were right, and I was blind." Before I could answer, Mom joined us. She paused, as if searching for the right words. "We thought we were protecting you," she said, "but we were only protecting our expectations, not you." I nodded slowly. "Now you know. And now, everything can change. The way you leveraged Grandma's cottage as seed capital, the precision in your acquisitions, the market timing, it's genius," Michael said, shaking his head in disbelief. I tilted my head, watching him. Seems those unrealistic dreams weren't so unrealistic after all. Before he could respond, Diana stepped onto the terrace, looking far less polished than usual. Her usually perfect hair was windblown, her designer cover-up wrinkled. Michael trailed behind her, gripping his phone like it held the answers to a world he no longer understood. "I just spoke to our financial advisor," Michael said without preamble. "He can't believe we missed this. Your company's market position is impressive." Diana's eyes narrowed. "Really, Michael? You're impressed by her lying to all of us for years?" "Diana," Mom started, but I raised my hand. "No," I said. "Let's deal with this directly." I turned to my sister. "You're angry I kept this from you. But ask yourself, why did I feel I had to?" "Because you liked watching us look like fools," she snapped. I didn't flinch. "No, because every win I've had, every decision I've made, was filtered through the lens of not being you. Because I never fit your mold, and instead of curiosity, I got judgment. Even now, your reaction isn't about my success, it's about you losing the advantage." The words settled into silence. Diana's expression flickered, rage, then resentment, And finally something rawer, doubt. "Come with me," I said. "There's something I want you all to see." I led them through a hallway they hadn't explored, into my private office. A sleek, sunlit space lined with glass shelves and framed milestones, my first deed, my company's incorporation, innovation awards. But one frame, centered and softly lit, stood out. "This," I said, touching the frame, "is the first letter Grandma wrote after I launched the company." She was the only one who knew. Mom stepped forward. Her fingers trembled as she read. "My dearest Victoria, your latest acquisition makes my heart soar. While others see you through the lens of comparison, I see you building an empire with quiet determination. One day they'll understand what I've always known, that your different path wasn't wrong, just extraordinary. All my love. Grandma Elizabeth." Mom's eyes shimmered with emotion. She knew. Because she looked closely. I said, "She never needed me to be Diana. She just needed me to be me." Diana had drifted to the wall of awards. She stared at one, slowly reaching out to trace the engraved text. "The Innovative Developer of the Year Award," she murmured. "I remember this project. I raved about it at Christmas." She turned to me. "That was yours?" "Yes," I said gently. "You praised it without realizing you were complimenting me." The irony wasn't lost on anyone. "Why reveal all this now?" Dad asked, still staring at the letter. "You could have kept the facade going." I moved to the panoramic windows overlooking the coast. "Because I'm done playing small for your comfort. Success that stays hidden starts to feel like shame. I'm not ashamed anymore." Diana hesitated, her voice quieter now. "I suppose my offer to buy the cottage sounds foolish." I turned to face her. "It's not for sale. It never was. That cottage is where it all began. But I'm open to hosting a family vacation, one based on mutual respect, not assumptions." What followed wasn't dramatic, but it was real. Conversations layered with honesty. Mom cried when I showed her photos of my actual home, a sunlit penthouse with views of the Pacific. Dad asked about my cash flow models and CAP rates, slowly shifting from confusion to admiration. Michael, ever the dealmaker, hinted at potential collaborations. I nodded, but made it clear, some boundaries would remain. And Diana? Her reckoning was quieter. Later that day, we walked alone on the beach, the wind taking the edge off the tension. "I don't know how to be your sister without being your benchmark," she admitted. "If I'm not the example, what am I?" "Try being my equal," I said. "It's a lot more interesting than being on a pedestal." That night, we gathered around a candlelit dinner, catered by my private chef. Mom beamed, Dad raised his glass proudly, and even Diana managed to smile. "To family," I said, lifting my glass, "and to finally seeing each other clearly." The chorus of "to family" was uneven, but heartfelt. For me, it was liberation. Later, I returned to the terrace. The stars glittered over the ocean. Sarah arrived with contract folders, because real empires don't pause for family drama. "So," she asked, "regret? Relief?" I glanced around at everything I'd created, no longer hidden. Hope, honesty, and finally, being whole. My phone buzzed. A text from Diana. "Can't sleep. Mind's racing. Coffee tomorrow? Just us?" I smiled. "Sure, I know a great little cafe. I own it." Her reply was instant. "Of course you do. Show off." It wasn't an apology, but it was a beginning. As I stood under the moonlight, I thought of Grandma, of her quiet faith in me, of her letter, and I knew. The real victory wasn't just building a $400 million empire, it was being able to own it completely, unapologetically, and out loud.